Okay, so Zan, I have a question for you, and I'm going to give this a bit of a preamble. So hopefully this will describe it to you, and also the listeners are going to be able to hear themselves and see themselves in this dynamic a little bit more. So the first thing is I don't really like the term friend zone that much because I think it's a little perhaps immature or outdated for the kind of scenario that a lot of the men that I'm working with at the moment find themselves in. Because it's like in the typical friend zone, it's a bit of a 20-something thing. And typically a guy is aching for a woman, and there's a sense that her sexual power in the dynamic is quite strong, and he doesn't really know what kind of value he brings to the table. So typically, when I think of being in the friend zone, or guys that are in the friend zone, or women that have a guy in the friend zone that are maybe exploiting him a little bit for favors or attention or validation, usually there's a power dynamic which is really asymmetrical.
Yes.
So what I so let's take the same could even be the same guy and the same girl. Fast forward them 10 years into the future. And I think there's a 30 something version of this dynamic where rather than the young the young guy absolutely craving and fawning for this girl who's really beyond his ability to really captivate. Sorry, are you with me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Because
I'm listening. I'm just trying to collate what you're telling me. Get it in.
Okay. There's some feedback on the line as well, and I can hear my own voice, so it's a bit distracting. Um, so there's a 30-something version, I think, of this that I'm seeing in a lot of the men, where actually a man and a woman are spending real time together, and what's different to the younger friend zone is that there is a genuine friendship and a genuine intimacy. So the friend zone of the lower 20s is there's not a lot of friendship. If you do something wrong or act out of step, usually the whole thing blows up, and typically you hang out only by happenstance. But in the people in their 30s, I see they can spend significant time together. There's a real sense of both of them meeting each other's needs in a way for conversation, for companionship. Often there's a sense of emotional affair that can get stirred up, and they are significantly becoming closer and closer. And I think in this kind of situation, there are often erotic undertones, but they're usually in the background. Or if they are physical together, usually the woman would back out at some point and say, you know what, I'm not quite aligned with this, or I'm not sure if I want to go in that direction. But the amount of time they spend together is quite significant. And typically that sense of power asymmetry in the friend zone is a lot closer. So I think that the guys that I know in this situation are thinking, well, I feel like I have a genuine shot with this woman because we're very, very close. But the men in the scenario can't quite sink in to a next level of power or a next level of how am I going to show up that's really going to change the gear and make a difference here. And they sense there is a way to do it, but they can't find the place within themselves from which to speak. And so they keep staying in this thing, but they're both subtly aware, both the woman and the man are subtly aware that she does still have a little bit more of that sense of power than him. And typically the men that I know in this situation, I think they do have a shot, and they do feel that they have a shot, but they can't find particularly how to do it, and there's a general hesitation.
So would you say, you said the power imbalance is like this when you're young, and it maybe get closer, but it's still the man that's underneath the desires he's got, the stronger pull, the kiss the cheek sort of thing.
Yeah.
And if it was like this, then as friends, as opposed to friend zone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, man and woman, just friends, are equally, meeting each other emotionally, et cetera, but maybe not intimacy, but they are friends. So
Genuine friendship. Yeah,
right.
there is a genuine friendship that's bloomed, as opposed to the friend zone, which is just like by convenience we're all in the same kind of circle of friends.
What we're kind of getting at here is that there's the genuine, authentic friendship.
Yes.
This is the young man, his frustration, and he's just hanging around being friends. And then this is closer to the friendship, but the man is still missing something or still desiring something that she's not willing to provide to him. Correct? So we're kind of...
Yeah, the man at this point has realized that he's got a lot more power and a lot more value, and he brings a lot more things to the table because they've been vulnerable to each other, and he really understands that he has a lot more than the guy 10 years younger than him. And even still, even though she is, let's say, single or looking for a man, and he is a good suitor for her, like a genuine suitor, he just can't seem to claim her heart or her full-scale devotion.
He's an element of frustration in there. He's not satisfied, or it would be a friendship.
Yes, but the frustration is not quite as explosive and painful as the first one. Is just obvious agony frustration, and the new one, this, let's call it the friend zone pro, or the zone of the spiritual friend. this updated 30-something midlife version, the frustration is a little bit more opaque because the situation is a bit more complex, and it's hard to put your finger on it a little bit.
Okay, gotcha. So this is the exploration, because presumably there's friend zones that are balanced the other way, where the woman is needy and wanting something more, and they've come to some equilibrium, and he's just he's holding her off. I mean, it's got to be the same, right?
Yeah,
probably arguably a lot less common, because men's fulfillment comes from intimacy, it comes from a sexual drive, right? Or women might feel a lot more fulfilled with a friend that's not intimate, because she's getting, we can talk about that a lot if you're a psychologist, but there's another side to the equation, which is the woman's side, the one who is in the power seat, you could say. And you've got to, if something isn't, if that friendship or the friend zone is accumulating or carrying on for a period of time, there's something on her part that's enabling that. Now, I can imagine that you could say that there's probably several layers of the woman's side. Number one, which is the cynical one, which is definitely true in some cases, is she knows that she's leading him on, and she does it because she gets free dinners, free rides to the airport, gifts, and so there's a subset of women that will manipulate the guy and keep that going as long as they can because it's free stuff. It's a cynical version, but it's free, right?
Yeah, and I would say that's a bit more the kind of basic friend zone version, which is like, let's see how much stuff I can get from that guy. She might think that callously, or she might not think that, but the exchange is a bit more material. And in this more, like I'm calling it, the friend zone pro, or the 30-something version, what she's actually getting from him is much more subtle, which is the intention, which is the, like, let's spend time and talk and share stuff, the companionship, the avoidance of actually being alone, the sense that even if I don't give myself to this guy fully, he gives me, it feels like, a lot of what I would want from an ideal man.
Let me flesh it out a bit more, because I'm thinking of the first scenario. Young man's completely frustrated, buying her flowers, doing all that kind of stuff, and it keeps going for, say, a year, whatever. So the first cynical type of woman is the one who's recognizes it and goes, "Oh, this is good for me," and leads him on. And whenever he starts to drift away, she calls him up. Hey, like I was going to wear a sexy thing. I need you to drive me to this party.
Yeah.
And then there's another subset of women, the larger one, which the same scenario is happening on his side, but they're not aware of it. They're innocent. They're just being sweet and nice, normal people. And they're not aware that he's got these intentions because he hides it so well, right? Because he's weak. So they're not bad manipulative type women. And then there's ones that recognize it. This is the third level that recognizes it. That's that, and have compassion, but they can't get rid of them. Kind of, okay. So there's that. That's the young man's version. Now the pro version on the woman's side. That was the woman's side on the pro version. I don't know. It could be other layers.
I didn't imagine that we would have a whole lexicon of the typology of the different friend zones here. Awesome.
We're doing the whole,
6 types of friend zone. Which one are you? Yeah.
5A. And so now the pro on the woman's side, what I can imagine is that she's aware because they're friends and they've been talking and they're intimate, they're very close, because otherwise it wouldn't be like this. And she's getting her emotional needs met, and maybe her physical needs are met in somewhere else. But she could be aware again, or she could not be aware again. But I think that if she's aware, there's something in her that just can't go down that physical route. I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because if they're that close and they have that bond and they really like each other, that's what I'm presupposing with this friendship pro. Then that first scenario where she's manipulating doesn't exist. She just can't go past that last barrier or that last thing that he would like. And he's okay with it, I guess, right? He's okay with it. He's frustrated, but he's like, all right. Right?
Yeah, he's not entirely okay with it. He would like more, that's for sure. But there is some hesitance on his part. And I think he struggles to show up fully because he senses or he fears that she might just have some kind of invisible power advantage. So he's kind of a little bit trapped from showing up fully. And then on her side, a couple of things I know, women in this kind of age or stage, let's say, often are in a bit of a process where they're reassessing their relationship to men anyway, where it's like, I was in my 20s and I went for the hot, I'm completely turned on, but it's a destructive attraction. But that's what love means to me. I'm going to do that. Often, I think in 30s, early 30s, mid 30s, women are in a phase of, I've got to reassess here. Actually, what is a good choice for a relationship? Because I don't want to get into this stormy, toxic thing. But yet, I still don't want really the stable, dependent man. I'm kind of waiting and looking and reassessing. Actually, how do I make a choose? How do I make a choice? Sorry,
well,
for a man that I want to be in. Right.
I'm not choosing him, but I'm enjoying the deep friendship we have, right?
Yeah.
Because what's the difference between that friend zone pro and a marriage that's been going for many years, and he's still frustrated, and she's just not interested in sex.
Right. It's almost like you can have you can have the full passionate physical intimacy with the love, and then you can drop back down or kind of relegate yourself back into friend zone pro, which is like a living marriage. And you can even relegate yourself further into old school friend zone, where your marriage is actually a experience of continual servitude, and you don't really get any need met. Yeah.
On both sides too, because women sometimes too, like they're putting on their lingerie and putting candles on, trying to get the guy in the mood. He just wants to watch football. So there's a lot of frustration on the women's side for that, and there's a lot of frustration on the men's side in marriages for certain. But they don't have the option of like necessarily easily going their separate ways. Interesting, huh? So we kind of like the taxonomy of the species of friend zone.
Yeah, we went a bit further than I expected. But all this to say, I'm working with a number of men who are kind of finding themselves a little bit stuck in a much more complex and nuanced version of the friend zone that they knew in their early 20s. So this is kind of the status quo.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So we've been in the movie course, we watched a film. And this is what I really wanted to ask you with
It's a movie course that you're running, correct?
yeah,
Just for clarification.
yeah.
Yeah.
We just came out of watching a film, and it's a kind of a detective police procedural drama. There's a cop, and he's trying to solve the case. And the murder suspect is a femme fatale, right? So he's trying to figure out who is guilty of the murder. And what you see in the first half of the film is a story where our detective friend basically jumps into every hoop of seduction that this femme fatale lays out for him. She is absolutely expert, and she lays out all these different kind of little games and parts of the dance and ropes him in and gets the detective to the point where she just has him around her little finger. She can do whatever she wants. And at that point, they have this full-blown, steamy, emotional affair. Both sides have got a lot of power. She's very powerful with her beauty, with her seduction. He's very powerful in that he is a good detective, like a kick-ass policeman, and he's standing for the law. So they have this very interesting dynamic, and it ends up with her getting him to destroy all the evidence, basically, and she gets off scot-free because she manipulates the man in a game of seduction. And at the halfway point, he realized that he has been taken in hook, line, and sinker. And he says, "Oh my God, I'm completely broken. I just realized that I thought we were in love, and I thought, we had this time together. But for you, it was just a game to destroy the evidence and get yourself free from the case." So he's completely unraveled and broken by this femme fatale character who knew what to do with him at every step of the way. Now, in the second half of the film, they move the location, and she is more on his turf, right? And something has shifted. Him in his heart, he's grown cold and cynical, doesn't trust women anymore, doesn't trust her. Because if she says she's in love, there's no way it can mean love, because I knew that I got destroyed last time out. So
in other words, that he can't believe it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's closed off. He's closed off.
Yeah, okay.
And something seems to have shifted on her part, which is, as the viewer, we also can't really trust anything that she says or does, because we've seen what she was up to in the first half of the film. But there is a shift in her, and it seems like there's a different quality to the way she interacts, and there's a different force that's motivating her actions. Anyway, I don't want to get too drawn into the particulars, because right at the end, there is a particular couple of lines of dialogue that she says. And she says it in a way where I think, well, the director is not just talking about their relationship here. The director is trying to make his commentary on the nature of the female and the male heart. And they're talking about the history of their love and their games that they're playing with each other, and this whole torrid, tormented affair that they've had. And basically, she says to him, when you told me that you loved me, that's when your love for me ended. When your love for me ended, that's when my love for you began.
Say it again. When you told me that you loved me.
In the moment you told me you loved me, that's when your love for me ended.
Oh.
In the moment your love for me ended, that's the moment where my love for you began. Right?
So this ties back to our discussion about this whole friend zone.
Yeah, exactly. So this is why I'm saying, like, a friend zone where the guy's got, very little value that he brings to the table, and she's way up here, and there's no common ground. It's like there's no way that he's going to be able to do anything to change that dynamic. But where a man and a woman are, like, around here in a power dance, then one shift like this can be an interesting force
As in
that changes things. Yeah. And the reason I asked this for you is because, 10, 12 years ago, when I was in Romania and doing Casa Marata with you, we would sit outside La Mama and have these epic long breakfasts and talk about this kind of dynamic. And you had some strong ideas about what to do when you hit this limit, when you're in this kind of friend zone and you want something different and you can't quite overcome that hesitation, you can't quite overcome this sense of power. I remember you have some strong ideas about that. And so the film ends, and we're left with this poetic question. Is this the nature of the female and the male heart? He wants her love. He tries to get her love. He says that he loves her. And as soon as he speaks it or overspeaks it or ends that love or withdraws, something then shifts in her, and then her love begins. What do you think? What's your experience?
Well, I tell you, there was something that I was known for like 20 years ago. I don't even think I put it in my book. And online, it was called Zan's Powerful Technique. and the powerful technique is, if you're in this offside relationship, this asynchronous thing, and you're frustrated, you're not getting, as a man, and you're not getting what you would like to progress in a relationship with the girl that you're attracted to or infatuated with. Reclaim your dignity there's the twofold thing. You reclaim your dignity. In other words, you do something for yourself here. You sit her down. This is Zan's powerful technique. Back in the day, you sit her down somewhere, and I don't know, and you smile, be curious. This is not a heavy talk. You're just going to be curious and say, you know what? Because this is for you. This is resurrecting your spirit, your soul. Because you've been frustrated, can't sleep at night, don't know what to do, tried everything, bought her stuff, did romantic stuff, wrote her poetry, and she just kind of absorbs it all, and nothing
Doesn't give herself back to you. Yeah,
it gives just enough back to keep you thinking that, oh man, she hugged me last night and gave me a kiss on the lips at that party last night, man. And then you think it's back on again, and you go in full force again, and she's like, you're gonna ruin it. We just be friends. And so, powerful technique is you sit her down and you say, my little sweetie, I've enjoyed all of my time with you. It's been a wonderful thing. I think you're absolutely incredible. I really, really, really like you as a person. I like you in all kinds of ways. I think you're incredible. And this is kindness, you're saying, smiling as you say this, because this is for you, remember? And it's coming to my attention, or I'm starting to suss out the idea that I want something more than you in this relationship. And that's okay. I'm coming to terms that I have to come to terms with that. It's okay. I think you're amazing. You're the best woman I know. I'd rather be dating you than anybody else, but we want something different. So I'm going to acknowledge that, my little sweetie. And I want you to know that I think you're incredible, talented, beautiful, like praise her highly. And I'm going to go my separate ways. I'm going to quietly take my leave. And I'm going to miss you. And I'm going to miss our times together. But I have to go and center myself and recenter myself, realign myself. And I'll be sad, but I'm going to do this. And it's a good thing. And in the future, you and I will reconnect and we'll see how we are doing, and maybe have 3 kids, and I'll have 3 kids, and you leave. Now, in that moment, she's going to say, no, come on. Why would you do this? We have such a wonderful blah, 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 blah. But you hold she's going to try and convert you back into, or say, you know what? She might even turn on something sexual energy to try and keep you there. Some women do it manipulatively, and some women do it just unconsciously. They don't know where they're doing, but they don't want to lose it, sort of thing, right?
Because in the scenario, the man is genuinely giving her like the emotional validation, the time, the attention that he gives to her is a real value to her.
Yes, and his announcement to take leave and to part ways is genuine. He has to be committed to that in his heart. If you just say the words, you, she'll suck you back in like this because she will turn it
Right.
on. Got to be committed to it and say, I'm going to do this for myself. Remember, this is for yourself.
Yes.
Now, aside of it, and then you wander off into the wilderness, disappear, disconnect from her on social media, etc., and go your own separate.
So this powerful technique is entirely a technique for yourself and your own dignity. There's nothing in your saying that, which is, do this technique because that's gonna
Right.
redress the balance here. It's an act of self-love or self-finding
This
of
is
one's spine and one's integrity again.
You should do this no matter what. Yes, and that's enough. That's at the end of it. You never see this girl again. Well, good for you. There's women out there. And I tell you, Jordan, I've coached this to men for years, and it is one of the hardest things to possibly do. And 90% of guys can't do it. They say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And they just can't go through with it. They just think, no, how can I lose this girl? I've never, this one, the woman of my dreams. And I'm going to actually, Zan, you know what? I believe you for what you're saying, but not for this one. This one's different. That's what you hear all the time. Or, later you hear that I thought this was different. So you do it for yourself, but the side effect is what's related in this movie. A side outcome that may happen. And if there's, let me flesh that out a bit, is that she will, for certain what's going to happen to her, no matter what, even if she's manipulated, and you make this kind announcement, curious, and you take your leave, for certain she's going to assess her values and what she wants in life. She's going to quiet and sit there and think, okay, this guy's been in my life for a year and now he's taken his leave. Is that, do I want that? Have I been unfair? Maybe, right? Or am I going to lose a great guy? And she reassesses him. Now, she may come to the conclusion that, okay, well, it sucked. He bought me a lot of gifts, these new boots, but all right. Likely that's, and lets him go and no big deal. And, boy, this has got many layers. Or she really assesses it and says, maybe I've been unfair. Maybe I can't find another guy like him. And for certain, some reassessment's coming into her mind. Now, what can happen down the road? So this is this is an artifact of you taking care of yourself, being dignified again, and recentering yourself and saying, I'm a man, I'll fight my battles. I'll go into the wilderness with my sword and spear and survive on my own. I'll make this happen. Okay. Now, what will happen? Unless you just happy you're gone, whatever. I got those boots out of him. Is in about a week or a month, something like that, she'll ping you and say, hey, I'm just, just wondering how you're doing. Hope you're doing well. And immediately it's such an incredible hook for men, such a bait that they're just, because they're like dreaming about her still and like, trying to keep their dignity and heartfelt. And now they get this soft, kind, reaching out message from her and they're hooked back in. It happens all the time. And they go, okay, well, yeah, I'm doing fine. How are you? And she's like, well, just missing you and wondering if you're doing okay. And maybe we can get together for a coffee. Boom, right back into it again.
Yeah.
So that's a dynamic. That's another layer of dynamic. But the dynamic of the movie, I think, is there's a seed in her that is attracted to him that hasn't been capitalized on. She hasn't moved on it for whatever reason she has. And when he makes his leave, or like in the movie, he decides that, this is not going to work. I'm done. I mean, he did a bit more cynically than my Zan's powerful technique trademark. There's a seed of attraction and a seed of wanting, and then it's a genuine reaching out, realizing that, she, for whatever reasons, because she's been sick a lot, or she came out of a relationship recently, she didn't give him the full flavor of her attention. And now she's regretting it and thinking, I'm going to lose something fundamental and beautiful out of my life, which is this great man, and I don't want to do it. Now she becomes desperate and or at least desiring.
Yeah.
And her love begins, the quote from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
When your love ended, my love begins. And that happens. And then the guy says, well, how do you know the difference? Yeah, you don't. I can see it from a third party view. I can see the difference in you and her, but you might not be able to see it. She might, because the woman's attentions can be, if she's a manipulator, they can be very, 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 very smooth and very soft and very loving and very attentive and very manipulative, but seems so real. That's why men get hooked over and over again. In fact, they'll angrily denounce it. Say, you know what? This is stupid. I buy you all this stuff, and you know, and you go and you bang these other guys. I'm sick of it. I'm done. Okay, yeah, lets them go. And a week later, she messaged, you know what? You were right. You were right. You know, what was I thinking? And he comes running back, and she's like, well, just go slow, because you know, like, yeah, I want to date you, but it's a cat and mouse game, man, and it's real. And how many guys you coached at different ages? Even a lot of the guys that we've coached over the years, Jordan, in their 60s, meet somebody that, you know, the woman at the coffee shop that they frequent, and they're like really starting to get a rapport, and she's being sweet to them, stuff like that, and it's offside. It's asynchronous, but they really believe that something's there, and it isn't. It's very strong. How do you detect it? You know, because I can think of like some older guys that know a bartender, for instance, that's always really attentive to them and smiling and stuff, and they think, oh, we got something going on with this girl. Yeah. And it isn't really. She's just being, you know, nobody else to talk to, and you're a kind guy, and you're cool, and you're very nice to her, and you say compliment her, and so she likes hanging around you. But he blows it up in his mind that he's got this great love affair going on. You've seen that, right? It's incredible, man, this dynamic. Yeah. It's incredible.
Typically, I think if a man has got a real, he's in a desert and he has needs for love, attention, validation, and none of them are fulfilled. And then he meets a pretty girl, nice looking woman who strokes him in these places. Then all of a sudden it's like having a Coca-Cola in a desert when you haven't drunk for a year. You think that drink's the best thing ever. Well, I remember when I went to Brazil for the first time, and girls who didn't really know me would just stroke my shoulder and stroke my arm, and I'm thinking I'm in love, because for a woman to do that, that's so intimate. In England, they never do that, and I felt I was in love, but that just meant, oh, this is how we touch each other, even family members and friends that we have no interest in. I took lint off my shoulder as meaning love. So how do I say, you talk about the cloud of horniness, but it's like that filter. I've got no wisdom in my filter for what is real or not real, what is manipulation or what is honest, because I'm so parched for these needs being met. So this is what I'm seeing with a lot of men that we're working with, and it makes your radar for the manipulation and the real psychology in such a dynamic super blurry. And I think some of the good work we're doing at the moment is helping to try and, you know, bring a bit of reality to what's happening.
And also, here's another layer of dynamic. This older guy, younger woman type of thing, where he really is infatuated and she's very kind to him. It can prolong your life. Let me show you something. Thanks. Grab right back. You know Henry Miller, right?
Yeah, of course.
The writer. Look, this is a book in Romanian.
Okay, yeah. Venus, Barbara Venus.
Brenda Venus is this woman's name.
Right.
A beautiful woman who was in a couple of movies, and, you know, with Clint Eastwood and stuff like that when she was back in her younger days in the 70s, I think. Henry Miller's an old guy, 80s or 90s, and he's about to die, and he meets Brenda Venus. This is a book in Romanian. It's an old book. But he meets Brenda Venus, in California or something like that. And she becomes his muse, and he writes volumes. And he was about to die. And he came back to life for 4 or 5 years. And he was writing volumes of letters to her. And she published a book recently, I think, which is the letters between the two of them, the intimate letters between. And she wasn't manipulating him, but she was absolutely his muse. And it has prolonged his life. Interesting.
Were they intimate in that? Was it a loving, intimate relationship, or at least an intimate affair?
I don't think he was able.
Okay, so he was really kind of in his 80s by that point.
But he would brighten up whenever she would arrive, and he felt a real deep, deep love for her, more than any other woman he's ever been with, Henry Miller, And Henry Miller's famous, topic of cancer and all this kind of stuff, right? So
it's funny that you tell that story, because it kind of recontextualizes the friend zone. Like, you hit a certain age and you should pay to even be in the friend zone, because just to be in the friend zone and have this glimpse that something might happen is enough to stimulate.
Yeah, and I have another book here,
well-being, longevity,
by I think Marquez, Gabriel Marquez. 100 Years of Solitude, and it's called. The book is called. It's on my shelf. I think it's My Melancholy Horrors or something. It's about this old guy that goes to a whorehouse, and he prolongs his life by just the sweetness of the girls that are attending to him, and he gives meaning to his old age, and and he knows that their love for him is illusory. He knows that they're just because he gives them money and stuff like that, but it's okay. He's okay with it. He's okay with it, because what else am I going to do in my old age? And these women are pretty, and they act like they're my girlfriend, and and they're young and pretty, and yeah. Or I could sit at home and watch TV and and get fat, or I can come down and see the. Who judges, man? I don't judge anything. I don't know.
Yeah, but this is amazing. I thought, wow, by articulating the 30-something melodrama of the friend zone pro, I thought, wow, I have something new here, and you're off into your 70s and 80s and 90s, and like the evolution of a friend zone totally shifts, actually, the further you go. But I imagine it's a source of suffering if you can't take it for what it really is. Like, if you have in the back of your mind, I know her stage of life, and I know what she's getting out of this, and I know what I'm giving, and I am filled up by this illusion of love that she helps me feel, and I love that. If you're cogent about that's the game that's being played, you can enjoy that. But I think if you're agonizing and hoping, actually, if I just send her a bit more money, then I'll get her out of that job for good, and then she's going to come with me for good. Like, if you really think it's going to be a thing, like she's really going to be your wife, or it's really going to be a love of equals, I think that's where you would get some suffering.
That's interesting, because men are willing to delude themselves, maybe young men too. If they're, I mean, it'd be the same thing as like falling in love with a sex robot. It's not real, giving you something back, but maybe it gives you something. I don't know, man. There's layers of this. This is this friend zone, the intimacy level. But I think we explored the whole gamut.
The delusion versus reality. I mean, that topic for another day. But I'd like to come back to the initial question, which is this dynamic of when you said you loved me, that's when your love for me ended. When your love for me ended, that's when my love for you began. So this whole almost like ships in the night in terms of who longs for who, and whose heart is devoted to who. I think the director's talking about this impossibility of, for some people, this impossibility of the male-female heart to reconcile itself with each other at the same time. And maybe this taps in with the whole kind of nature of courtship or pursual. If you think, the images of law that we have, which is a young man courts his woman, and he fails and fails and fails at all the different tests and falls down at every obstacle. but at some point he kind of finds within in himself enough heroism to woo her and make her his princess, his queen. But then as soon as that happens, what happens after the wedding night at the end of the fairy tale? Well, he's now hit his adulthood and he's called actually into the seat of, you've got responsibilities, son. You know, you have to get out of the bedchamber and out of the woman's home. You have to go into the world and battle. Almost like as soon as you get love, as soon as you conquer the maiden, you actually have to go and fight a bigger battle. And I wonder if there's a sense of she who batted him away for so long, no, protecting her chastity, expanding the whole moment of love. As soon as she gives herself over, it's like the husband, oh yeah, but actually there's a war going on and I need to take my place and serve my men. And I'm not going to be courting you anymore.
An age-old, this is a song and
Maybe
dance.
that's something built in.
Every culture. I think that, yeah, like maybe everything is asynchronous to begin with, and then it synchronizes some, like you said. It's interesting that in a lot of these relationships, love affairs, I mean, the old French saying that I always quote is, in every relationship, there's the one who kisses and the one who offers the cheek. And the way I used to say it is, the one who loves the most is the one who waits by the phone. Right? If you're the one that's waiting for her text, and you're sitting like this, and you text her and she doesn't answer for 2 days, so you text again, and now she answers, you're offside. That's asynchronous, and it's not good. You send 2 texts and that's it. She doesn't answer you back. Go do something else. I mean, to say it bluntly, but a lot of the scenarios I'm dealing with is because it's offside, where the guy is really attentive and really trying to say something funny on text, trying to compliment her, trying to ask how her day was, and she for every 3 texts she sends 1. Mm-hmm. And a lot of guys have that, and it's frustrating to them, and they know they're doing it, but they just can't resist that picking up the phone. Well, maybe she's just having a bad day. I'll just text her this one time again. And even after my advice, don't do it. Wait. Okay, but Dan, this one's a little different. I think, she doesn't like it when I don't. I think she told me her ex-boyfriend would not attentive, so I have to.
So I don't know. What I've been calling throughout this conversation power asymmetry, we could also call an interest asymmetry. Like someone has more interest in the other, therefore the other has more power, because if they pull away and decide to leave, then the other one is hurt. So one question, maybe we're kind of getting to the conclusion here, but men, because we work with men and work the other way as well, they want to change this kind of power or interest asymmetry. They want the winds to blow in their favor. They want to have a period of time where she's more into them. So what they then will do is a tactical manipulation, fake pull away, a feigned losing of interest, which puts you in the game playing thing. And even if you have a win for a week or 2, it tends to end up actually building in a much more gnarly, destructive cycle. I can say that for sure from experience. Like, I'm just going to tactically show that I'm not interested, and that's going to hurt her, and then there will be blame and accusation. The whole thing melts down. If your interest for her is strong, and she does have interest in you, but it's not total, what is? I mean, you've given the the powerful technique, the kind of solution, but I think it's worth saying again how to
and resurrect it or balance it out?
Not, or what is the right way, or saying what is a harmony, because some couples get together and there's not so much of a sense of one kisses the cheek and the other one doesn't. There is a harmony, a to and from. There's not the games or the overthinking or the manipulation, but the power and the interest that the couple has in each other maybe waxes and wanes, but there is a symmetry of it in it. So my question is not how does a man make her more interested, not by pulling away, but by doing something else? The question is how to create in your life, as the norm, scenarios where you have equal interest with the women that you're meeting, and you don't get stuck in this.
I'll tell you what it is, and it's not. It's a lifelong adjustment or pursuit of you. If you're not caught up in something that magnetizes you as a man, that you just adore, that you want to head towards, some vision quest or some adventure or some career thing that you're on, every woman that you meet, if you're just the guy working at the gas station with no ambition, and you meet the woman of your dreams, quote unquote, you got nothing else but her to think about. But if your life is created as a story, as a narrative, and you are caught up in something that you're driven toward, what they say, purpose or whatever, then when you meet a woman, you're going to be fascinated and excited about her, but it doesn't swerve you off your path. Like what I wrote in the book, The Alabaster Girl, is a woman wants to be taken on an adventure. She doesn't want to be the adventure. And a lot of guys that she becomes the focus. That's their whole purpose in life, is her. And women want to be caught up in something that you're caught up in. So if you have this mystical idea or quality of heading towards something in your life, whether it's just developing yourself or just trying to travel or something. For instance, if you had a major thing happen in life that was thrust upon you, like you got cancer with only a year to live, that becomes your focus. How do I beat this? And your friend zone woman becomes secondary to that. You might be looking to her for support, but something else takes your attention, which is you're caught up in something, and it could be thrust upon you. Maybe you get thrown in jail or something, or have some major trouble. That becomes your focus. And if I was making this clear or not, but I'm just inventing this in my mind. But if the answer to what you said, how do you make that balance for all the future women, is you have to have something that you're devoted to in your life. And if you don't have that something, hit the road, man. Cut your ties. Leave the gas station. Leave your insurance company. Hit the road. Go sit your mate up. Go scare yourself a little bit. Relinquish your possessions. Everything, everything you want is outside of your comfort zone. All these little platitudes I wrote in my book, right? Every great life has had in it a great renunciation. Renounce everything and go and see what you made of. Go into the wilderness. Go into 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. Do your vision quest. Scare yourself. Go somewhere without any money, like you did when you were young. And now you have a gravitas, an energy in your system, in your body, and because you've seen some things and you've explored life to a degree, that when you meet her, that is evident in you. And now you have a mystique that she's drawn to. I mean, I'm saying an entire week's worth of discourse here in 10 minutes. But something like that. Because if she doesn't dream about you, the girl you just met, or imagine a life with you, or imagine being intimate with you, or is really happy that she met you and think, wow, and thinks, wow, this is a cool guy, and likes you, or the woman you're starting to date, or is not proud of you, proud of what you're trying to do with your life, it's offside. Yeah. She doesn't admire you and think you're a cool guy, and vice versa. If you don't admire your woman, if you don't think, wow, she's cool, I like her in every respect, I think she's cool and she's interesting and funny and stuff, yeah, they'll feel it if you have that. And if you don't have that, then it's offside. So, I mean, I just said a whole bunch of stuff here. I don't know if any of it landed, but
Yeah,
It's
it
all
was
real.
curious to me. That I mean, it's not quite as simple as just go traveling and you'll never get stuck in the friend zone feeling that agony again. You can go traveling and be even more pining for women when you're sat in your solitude and your poverty. But what's interesting to me was an age came after which I never had this friend zone dynamic, neither the ridiculous out of balance friend zone or even the um, close it could be we're so close to something but we're still not kind of
Yeah.
melancholic emotional friend zone. I never had that again. And I think what changed in me was, and you're saying the underlying dynamic, but how I experienced it was, let's say I meet a woman and I'm really excited about her because she's so beautiful and her particular style and the way she is amazing, and I just want it or want her and want that. As soon as I share my excitement, if she's not completely as excited as I am, literally within a day or two, I lose all my interest altogether because
Now,
the sense now, yeah, because the sense of
yeah,
hope, say I have a big desire or a big appreciation, the sense of hope that she is going to be the thing is that doesn't exist in me because the thing
right.
is the thing that I'm fighting for over many years. So if I'm overly appreciative and excited and invite her into something, she doesn't share that back. I'm like, my excitement will go down in a matter of days, and all that energy gets funneled to the direction that I'm going with. So I have none of these lingering, limerent thoughts of, oh God, I hope that girl notices that I didn't call her for 4 days and now she's hungry to hear more about me. She's not entirely forgotten, that would be cruel to say, but is not too much of a blip on my radar because I already went forward miles since that missed moment.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if we
part of
get in
that
touch,
too,
if yeah,
part of it is a big part of it is because you created a forward momentum in your life, like I've been talking about, of where you're driven toward. You're driven to something, your horizon, your personal horizon. You're not just the guy that's receiving and consuming and flicking through your phone. You're actually trying to fight for something, some forward momentum. So that's part of it for sure. That makes it. You realize that I'll be okay here. You know, I can just dismiss this offside or this asynchronous love affair. But the other thing is, you've been there before. If you get to a certain age, you've been in the friend zone before, and you thought I'll never get a woman like this in my life again, and you did. You got a better woman down the road. Then you think, I'm glad that ended, that friend zone. I'm glad I didn't marry that chick.
yeah, and there really are so many, right? If you keep going, there's so many options.
Then you start to go, okay, well, I've seen this before. Yeah, this girl's amazing, but I've been here before, and if this doesn't work out because she's not giving me the attention back, I'll find somebody else. Something Aristotle said: a man should not get married before he's 35. I 100% agree with that. You have no,
Mhm.
you haven't come to some kind of experiential terms of your own body and spirit and emotions. So, so there comes a time when, if you've been exploring life at all, that you've had a couple friend zone type of things or asynchronous relationships, I guess you could say, and you recognize it. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go do something else, and it's genuine. That's amazing that we talked for an hour on this topic, man. I thought it would be when you first
Yeah,
posed the question, but
somehow
there's even more to say.
yeah, somehow I'm left with that poetic sense of mystery from the film, which is it? I think I'm pondering this with a sense of I don't know if there's a real explanation or a definite truth, but just this thing about he loved her and he said he loved her. He gave all his love to her that he could, but only when he realized that it was kind of doomed, then he withdrew and pulled away. And then her love for him began. And as soon as
And
she
it was
realized that, and as soon as she realized that her love for him was doomed, she pulled away and had another experience. And it's just that sense of, yeah, I'm
yeah,
just left with the mystery and the poetry of that. Is that true? It doesn't seem true in all cases. but it's a description of something that certainly happens out there that I can relate to.
For sure. And I just think that you said it right. I mean, this entire conversation is a mystery because it's psychology, it's dynamics, it's push-pull of attraction. There's so much guesswork. Nobody teaches you anything about it. You have to try and figure out how to date and how to be in a relationship, you know? Thing. Yeah, it's just a mystery. It really is. Even if I'm sitting here trying to say, okay, I've studied this a lot. I've talked to.
Well, I was going to say, because you said when you finished the Alabaster Girl, you said, actually, I've written everything that I wanted to say on the topic of men and women, almost like
Yeah.
it didn't hold a mystery for you any longer. And maybe I misconstrued that, but it seemed like something had been answered in your mind. But does that mean that a woman's heart and the ebb and flow of love and desire continues to be a mystery for you?
No. Okay, let me clarify that because I was so smitten by girls as a young man, as a young boy, and I just loved women that I devoted my life to to the pursuit of the knowledge of women, to try and understand the female spirit. I wrote the book, The Alabaster Girl, about it, and I did say that when I was done writing The Alabaster Girl, and I stand by it today, everything I had set up my whole life to be a student of women, and I wanted to know. And when I wrote The Alabaster Girl and I finished that book, I knew in my heart, and that's what I stated, that everything I ever wanted to know about women, I have learned. Doesn't mean I know everything about women, but it does mean that everything that I wanted to find out, I've accomplished that, and I feel code complete. I feel like I've seen some things. I know a great deal more than most, because I dedicated my life to it. That's it. And then, but the mystery still is just fascinating to me. The mystery of the essence of the feminine, the mystery of the dynamic between men and women. Still, like I understand everything I wanted to learn about women. I'm writing a second book right now, and it's really a book about the heart of men. Yes, in relationship to women.
Right.
So the Alabaster Girl is written about everything I learned about women. Now I'm writing about everything I learned about men. So I guess you could say.
Yeah, because after all your desire to be awash in the land of women and abundant in the land of women, you ended up in the center of the world of men, right? It's
Yeah.
it's men who track you down. Your community is men. Yeah.
My membership was all men. I'm surrounded by men. Wait a minute. Join our membership, by the way, if you're listening to this. We have membership. Put a link at the end. But no, so like I set out to figure that out, but the mystery and the wonder and the unfolding tapestry of it, man, it's bigger than ever. I'm more in curiosity and wonder than I was before. Before, it's just trying to figure out how to get, a woman to like me. Then it's how can I get laid, and then it's like how can I? It expands. It's a platonic, way that I discovered independently from Plato. I read it later, which is you move up towards the forms, from the reality that we see or the illusion that we see, and you get further and further. You start to realize that there's one woman that breaks your heart. Then there's several women that you start to date. Then there's several women that you start to date, and then there's you if you keep going, you start to wonder what about the essence of the female spirit completely. And if you keep going past that, you wonder what is beauty and what is the transcendent quality of art. It's because that's all the same thing. Sense?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm feeling in me, it's like I feel I've learned how to navigate pretty well on the sea, but I still don't quite know why there is a sea or a land in the first place, like how that came to be, right? So it's like one thing is answering my questions about how to navigate it, but what is it really? Hence my question.
Right.
It kind of ends up in poetry. And at least in me, what I get talking about this today is just the desire to live it. It's poetic and the desire to live all the things that can happen, right?
That's right. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting
And
topic.
and here's a thought to end it with: if either of us end up with a Brenda Venus, delete this from the podcast. Well, she might not be born yet.
She's changing your diaper.
What a mystery! Yeah,
Well, I wrote in the book, The Alabaster
very
Girl,
bizarre.
I wrote in there that, what the guy in the train said in the book, not me. He said, no matter how old and decrepit and feeble and moldy and toothless I become, as long as I can talk, I'll still have women in my life. Funny, man.
Let's wrap it up.
Yep. Good little conversation. Good exploration.
Okay.
I like it.
Does that hit your green tick for episode 1 of this new series?
Yeah, we're rebooting ourselves here, if anybody's wondering, and we're going to try and do this with a lot more regular basis and pick some really cool little snippets of subjects. And join our memberships. Come join our conversation. Go to amorati.net, AMORATI.net, and join our membership and be part of this conversation with us.
Great. Thank you, Zan.